thank our judges, and I'll do a quick introduction of them. Mark Whitley from EMCO, Kelly House, Scotiabank, Jane Button, Scotiabank, Greg Sauter, Saskatchewan Roughriders, Ron Stiles, SaskTel, Mohammed Torshizi from the U of S. Competitors, you have a maximum of 20 minutes to present today. Immediately following your presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes for the presenters to answer their questions. During your presentation, I'll be giving you time cards so that you know where you're at. And during the questions, I will give you a 1-minute warning when it's left, and I'll knock at the 30 seconds so the judges know that when we're going to be finishing up. Audience, there's no questions, comments, or anything like that during the presentations. Cell phones and picture taking are prohibited at all times. Please ensure that your cell phones are on quiet or on vibrate. Please, audience, only applaud at the end of the question period. The audience is also banned from wearing any symbols, colors, any representation from your school. We ask that the audience exit immediately after the question period so that the judges have time to be able to do their scorecards. I want to confirm that you're Team B.
Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here with you today, along with my partners Brianne and Victor. Now we're excited to be here today for one reason. It's an opportunity for you to purchase a company that has opportunity to grow with a specific strategic plan. That's what we're here to do for you today, is to create that growth plan that will strategically allocate resources for their most efficient use possible. Now, what our recommendation turns out to be is that we want you to really target those domestic auctions and grow that, especially with the opportunity arising in the Maritimes. And we want to utilize those connections with the current employees and then develop an online auction platform to take advantage of the technology that is available to you and really lower some of those overhead costs and increase those margins. Now, what we are here for you to do today is we took a look at the analysis through a number of different perspectives, internal, external, and financial. Then we created some alternatives that we felt were good revenue streams for you to look into. And then once again, our recommendation is what we came up with and exactly how we wanted to implement. So, looking externally at the technology and online selling. Now, this is a trend that is coming along quite nicely. We believe there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a $100 million Canadian auction commission market that you have the ability to take advantage of. Only 50% of your revenues right now are coming from the Ontario market, and we believe that there's a vast opportunity for you there across Canada. And that's that $50 million of your revenues are coming from the Ontario market. There's a low Canadian dollar, which encourages some exporting exchanges, especially through that online selling that you can maybe take advantage of. The recession has been shown to lead to a large number of equipment volume sales coming through, and then high overseas demand once again. Looking at some of the threats, some of the trends that are a little bit more negative in the market. There's an increase in private sales due to online capabilities. And now that is an especially important reason why we believe that the online auctions are a good option for you to explore. The Ritchie brothers own 60% of the market share, and there's a number of smaller competitors that are in the market as well. There is, 36 of them to be specific. The recession has led to a reduction in the domestic market sales. Of course, people have a little bit less money to purchase these products with, and then changing information privacy laws. Now you have quite a large number of people on your email list. We just want to ensure that you're up to date with the changing laws in Canada. Looking internally, what is great about the company you're looking to buy? You have a lot of physical assets. You can take advantage of that. There's the reputation of the existing management team, a lot of experience there, and they're highly regarded. There's the established client base that I mentioned before, with 1,000 active buyers amongst them. They've got full service capability. Now this is your ability to appraise and acquire items before the auction, as well as a number of other features that you offer. And of course, your brand name, that company that has been built up by the current management team that you will have the ability to take on. Looking at some of the challenges, the poorly timed vacations by the executive management in the past year led to a little bit of reduction in sales. We just wanted to bring this up and ensure it doesn't have lasting effects. The appraisals limitations, one more employee can triple the number of appraisals available to you via estimates. There's no experience with search engine optimization, so looking at this challenge as we move into the online world, there is no growth strategy currently in place, so that's what we're here for you to do, of course, today, is to make sure that moving forward, we strategically allocate those resources with an efficient plan. And then the drawing out earnings instead of investing in that line of credit, just looking at how we use that line of credit more efficiently, and then half of the client base concentrated to one area. So looking a little bit further into the internal company, looking at some of the financial analysis. As you can see, your numbers here, in terms of debt, your current ratio, which is your ability to cover your current liabilities with your current assets, is very high, over 4. In comparison, I'm going to compare all these numbers to Rich's Brothers, obviously your biggest competitor. Theirs is still above 1. But quite a bit lower. Your debt ratio, which is how highly leveraged you are, how much more debt can you take on, you're well below 50% levered in debt, which is also lower than the approximately 4 ratio of the Ritchie Brothers. And then the gross margin, as you can see, is quite a bit lower than the Ritchie Brothers, and we attribute this in part due to the fact that they have a larger segment of their revenue stream coming from online purchasing and selling. Now, looking at these bottom 2 numbers here, these are the projected analysis. Your analysis for revenues moving forward for Borealis is 28% on average in those 3 years. Ritchie Brothers is only 7%. What we recommend that you do is maybe re-look at some of those projections and just sure they're up to date. Although, with a number of the challenges and weaknesses, as well as the opportunities coming through the pipeline, we believe that the 28% maybe is feasible at this point. Now, looking into a valuation to see what the company can be purchased for. Using a comparison analysis, now that's putting enterprise value over the EBITDA line, and then the price per share over the earnings per share, times creating a enterprise value well over the $500,000 asking price, and a price per share well over that same price, on a lower end of $1.2 million. Now I'm going to pass it off to Victor, who's going to walk us through some of the alternatives and those revenue streams that we believe could truly enhance your business and grow.
Thanks, Ben. All right, so as Ben had mentioned, our objective was to develop a strategic growth plan for you to make the most efficient use of your resources possible. Now, looking at growing a company, there's obviously a few different ways you can do that, a few avenues to take. Based on our external analysis and some of these decision criteria we came up as most important heading forward with Borealis, we recommended to go ahead with the domestic growth and the online sales. So the decision criteria we went through were using technology to grow the business, following the trend of technology and online sales, efficiently allocating your resources, and also growing the business through connections. So again, like I said, there was many avenues we could have taken. We chose 3 that we thought most efficient. So looking at growing domestic auctions, some of the pros, looking at the financial statements, they are some of your highest margins. Again, you do have that full service support that you guys provide. You have the online site, you have specialized marketing, you have transportation. You're kind of the one-stop shop, and that's definitely in line with that. Using your current resources. There's definitely room for growth outside Ontario, growing into the Maritimes, and we do have some connections there to progress that way. We also have the connections from the current management team, so using the contacts and the previous experience of your management team. Some of the cons, domestic purchasing has obviously slowed due to the recession. And then again, also there's a trend of buyers following the online trend. Sales are moving again slightly towards more private sales just because of the simplicity and the ease of the online auction. Online auction brings us to our next point. Some of the pros, there's higher volume of goods. It's easy to target the international customers, again, expanding for future growth. There's lower overhead costs. It's going to be cheaper to run through it. Access to buyer profiles. You do get the information, people signing up through your website. You get to know your customer a little bit better. There's also advantages through technology. Some of the cons are the lack of experience. It's going to be a new venue you guys are chasing, so Brianna's going to talk about later. You're going to have to look at maybe contracting out a professional to help you develop that stream. There's limits to the value-added serviceability. Like I said, you guys they built the business off of kind of a one-stop shop, full-service provider. And when you move to online, you use that face-to-face value and the connections there. And there's also the desire to see the items in person, especially in some of these big-ticket items like equipment and that. You need to go through, we have the appraisals, and it's definitely efficient and accredited, but when you're making a purchase that big, some of the buyers definitely want to see those items up close and in person. Looking forward at growing your appraisal venue, establish quality and service. You're already in there, you're doing well at it. One added employee can triple the number of appraisals, so you're looking at opportunities to add another person in there. You already have 2 accredited people. It would be definitely easy to train that third person and extend out that way. Customers also tend to sell their items through your auction, so that is in line with growing auction sales in-house, because the people who do get items appraised by you do tend to come out to the auction. Some of the cons we're looking at, it's not a key revenue source. So like I said, it's more of developing the connections and building relationships and bringing people to us. The profit on the appraisal is actually very minimum. Low turnover service, and also the unknown impact of the service growth. So like I said, it's building connections, bringing people in, but you can't actually measure that. Looking at growing acquisitions, some of the pros, we have that established line of credit already, so we do have the means for purchasing through this venue. Customers take a discount for cash, so Borealis has already been taking advantage of that, the low discount items, reselling it for a good profit margin. Also, again, the value add for customer, going in line with your full service. Again, qualified appraisers can ensure that profits at auction. So we do have qualified appraisers making sure that we're not going to be buying junk. There are lower margins than the typical auctions, and also there's that increased risk at auction. So we are purchasing it, we're not selling it through customers. That is ours once we take on the responsibility. So like I said, we had a few main decision criteria, and that was growing the business through connections, allocation of resources, and using technology to grow the business. We found the highest opportunity, again, was through growing the domestic auctions and online sales, and also using the online auctions to develop internationally. All right, now Brianna's just going to take us through how we're going to implement this plan.
All right. So Victor is taking you through the process of how we decided we were going to focus on these 2 key areas of the business. And now I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do it. So with acquiring this company in the next 2 years, there's a lot of big steps that we need to focus on. So the focus of our implementation has had a big focus on the next 2 years. So firstly, we want to get the acquisition of Borealis through. So the first thing that needs to be done is to obtain financing. So you already have been able to put up equity as owners, so we want to collectively get that equity together and then go to the bank and get that loan in place, and we want to aim for that 5.7% financing that is offered to entrepreneurs. Nextly, we want to purchase Borealis for the $500,000 that has been offered. And to do this, we want to ensure that due diligence is first done to ensure that everything within the organization is ready for purchase, agreement on that sale price, and then we want to have a lawyer draw up the contract of sale to make sure that that sale goes through. So that's in the next 2 to 3 months. Next, we want to focus on succession. A lot of the people in your organization have retained knowledge that we need to pass on to future employees. So first, we want to get Jan to sign a 1-year contract, who is the CEO of the current organization, and then Larry to sign a 3-year contract, and really have these people on hand with your new management team, transferring their knowledge and building up the client list, as this is going to be really essential to pass on this knowledge. And getting the new management team to get the CPPAG accreditation will also be really important. And something as new management you need to consider, once Jan's one-year term is up, we'll need to replace him with someone else. Next, we want to look at retention and employee morale. We already know that the employee morale within your organization is great, and many of the employees have said that they would stay on into the future, but we want to ensure that this is ongoing and that we keep the internal employees happy. This is a small organization. There's only about 10 people on board, so we want to keep that close-knit feeling within the organization. So some recommended retention strategies would be to have a supper and a meeting just to get to know the new people, and also just informal meetings throughout the work week, just doing coffee and mentoring all throughout the work week. Next, we want to look at the development of domestic auction. So this is the actual auctions that physically are going to take place. So we want to look at adding 3 additional auctions in locations that are not in Ontario. So this is specifically in the Maritimes, and if we can build clients out in Central Canada and Western Canada, this would be another great place to look forward to. So we know that Larry, who is already on board, has a lot of connections out on the East Coast, so that would be the first place that we would want to set up an auction. So we want to look at sourcing clients and items and building upon the current contact list. Then we want to build the contacts across the East Coast and across Canada. Sourcing new places, that would be looking into market research into Western Canada and different places like that. And then the marketing and logistics into the new locations. So logistics would just be looking for a place that we could host the auction, that would be able to hold the amount of items that we're looking for, and then the marketing within those regions. So some of the marketing that you're already doing are things like trade journals. You do have a website developed. You're already doing stuff within the industry through marketing. So we want you to essentially replicate that in the new locations that you would be looking to go into. So our next objective would be to develop the online business, the domestic, and the international business. Now we know that you're already concentrated in Ontario, and we want to spread the risk of only being dependent on that market, so that looks to Canada and internationally. So for our first action item, we want to contract a professional to handle this. We know that you have considered an intern for this, but this is an essential component of the growth strategy, and we want to hire a professional for this, and we value this at $85,000. So this is someone who's going to get a fully functioning website that has fantastic pictures that mitigates the risk of people not wanting to or wanting to see the item. They're going to get a full description, and it's going to be really interactive. And then the search engine optimization just uses keywords so that when a person is searching for an item, it will more quickly bring up the item and bring that to the person's attention. We also think with our growth strategy, it would be essential to contact regional chambers of commerce and regional development authorities, as this will help you grow in Western Canada, all throughout Canada, through the United States, and internationally by building those connections. We also know that most of your sales are business-to-business sales, and private sales usually come from recommendations from either accountants or lawyers. So we felt for the social media development, focusing on a LinkedIn page or group would be really helpful. As well, we want to focus on online advertisements. As I said, you're already in trade journals and different things like that, but we want to bring Borealis into the digital future and get that connection in place. So doing the SEO optimization will help with this, but also placing ads on Google or even on Facebook could be a really great advertising strategy. So these have focused mainly on the next 2 years of growth. For our last goal, we do see that the acquisition and appraisal business stream can be developed further, but it's not a key business stream that we needed to focus on now. So in year 3, we are recommending that you hire that additional employee to be able to do the appraisals, which you projected will triple the amount that you can do. We want them to get the CPPAG accreditation so that they will be able to do them as best as possible. and then focus more marketing on the appraisal and acquisition instead of just purely auction. So there are some exit strategies that we identified if you want to exit the strategy or exit this business in the long term. So you can take on debt to pay out dividends, take the company public, or focus on the private sale of the company. So to do this, you would want to get the company reevaluated, of course. Pursue the option that best fits the current situation. This is pretty far out in the 10-year range, so it's hard to know exactly where the company is going to be. And hire a lawyer to complete this transaction. So there are a few risks that we've identified with this strategy. The first one being that if there is a lack of employee morale with the acquisition, we've just put a retention strategy in place, and we're encouraging you to be as transparent as possible throughout this process as a mitigation. With the interest rate changes, that's something that could happen with the 5.7% were to change, so we want to get that locked in for a 3-year period of time. The client base is really essential in transferring it, so we want to get the management in place, transferring that through the succession plan that we have already outlined. And as well, if the domestic market is saturated and there's not as much room for growth, focus on the international expansion. So as Charles Darwin famously quoted, it's not the organization that is the strongest, it's those that are most adaptable to change. Today we brought forward a strategy that makes your organization adaptable to the trends that we're seeing in the external environment. What we're doing here today is we're going to build on the existing connections and build up the client base. We're going to harness the technology and develop the online sales growth, and we're going to ensure the prosperity of Borealis. So now we'd love to open the floor up to questions.
So you're planning on, as part of your strategy, the domestic expansion into the east. With regards to the cost of new location, are you looking at renting versus buying? And what does that do to the minimum commission profits that are required in order to hold auctions?
I think I'd like to point out first that it's not specifically into the east, or sorry, exclusively into the east. That's just the most recent option that we believe you can take advantage of, or the closest to taking advantage of that option. In terms of the rent versus buy, what you have done in the past, or what Borealis has done in the past, is they've tended to buy the location, and they have a lot of those physical assets from what we understood, and that would tend to lead us towards buying, but every situation is different. I think you have to evaluate the future value of renting versus buying and what those can do for you.
So in order to proceed with your plan, you first have to acquire the company and require financing for that. Can you explain why you think $500,000 is a reasonable number for that company? And considering also that the company already owes $100,000, what are you looking for, what do you think?
From the notes, what we gathered is that the current owners of Borealis were looking for the $500,000. What our comparison analysis showed us was that it's worth a lot more, actually. It's worth upwards of approximately $5 million, and so that would probably be a range where you'd be more allowed to go through, so that's 3 times what the current asking price is from what we understood.
You talked about expanding into the U.S. and internationally. There's a whole host of complications that come with that. Duties, different cultures, different laws. Have you considered all that and what the additional cost might be, both in terms of monetary cost and time? And would you need more people to focus on those markets because they are so different?
We felt that with focusing that on online, it would reduce the overhead costs with that, and the administration costs would be lower with that. Also, we are seeing specifically in Canada a recession, and what that's doing is it's flooding the market with more inventory, but it makes us more attractive to external markets to want to purchase from us. So we felt that that would be a great incentive for the external markets to want to purchase from us.
What kind of customer service have you considered for this online auction marketing channel?
We want the website to be as absolutely as smooth and as functional as possible. So we want it to have the pictures, the explanation of what it is, but we do want to retain that full service. So there would be a 1-800 number that people could call and get additional information for, and that would be connected to our sales team and our administration team that's already in place.
So you said you're going to hire you'd suggest hiring a contract professional for website, search engine. Now is that the auction platform as well? Then they would do that all.
Yeah, that was more specifically exactly for setting up the online auction. It's going to be a huge task, and our current management team doesn't have very much experience in doing so. And also, we felt that it was a major key part of the growth expansion, and it was definitely worth it to hire a professional to handle that.
What is part of your contract with the old owners? What component is going to motivate them to want to ensure the profitability of the company? Because they've already, as we've seen, drawn out a lot of dividends. They're taking vacations at inopportune times for the company. What are you going to do to ensure that they stay engaged in the company and are buying into the strategy that you've put forth?
This isn't an implementation plan, but one thing we did talk about is doing the sale over a number of years. So having them retain some of that equity initially, and then buying them out slowly over a 3 to 5 year plan, so that we're not putting up that upfront cost immediately, and that they're still committed because they have equity at stake.